thing I want to talk about, and that's levels. There are levels of insight, right? So the first level of insight is recognizing the illness, right? Recognizing illness. That's what I talked about earlier. This is where everybody gets to, or at least where they want you to get to, right? The doctors and your families and all that. Everybody wants you to see that you're ill, recognize you're ill, take your medication and all the stuff. That's good, but that's only the first level of insight. There's actually two more levels, right? There's three levels of insight, right? That's only the first level. That's it. There's more to it, right? But we just stop there. Oh, okay, you know you're ill. Okay, take your medication. You adhere, and all right, see you next time. And good. That's what they say. You go to therapist. That's good enough. You're gonna take your medication. You know you're ill. Good. See you next time, right? So maybe you got therapy and stuff like that. But that's for next level, I guess. The next level is uh, not just recognizing you're ill, but recognizing that you actually have some power in how the symptoms play out, right? So you might be on a medication, or not on medication, but if you either way, if their symptoms come, you can diffuse them. You can unravel them, right? They don't have so much power that they can really set you down that a roller coaster a ride and put you in a hospital. You can navigate through. And there's some people I've seen as well online who stated that they live with schizophrenia and they manage without medication, but they just know how to deal with the symptoms. And what the things they always say is, I don't pay attention to the symptoms, right? I just let it. I just ignore it, which is exactly right. You just ignore the symptoms, right? Um, that's the second level. You can actually get through, and there is a study now that they found where I think 30% of patients are able to live without medications, right? Because they just know how to manage the symptoms, and now is becoming a bigger thing that they are looking into, where people are able to manage certain symptoms without medication. So that's a real thing, man. That's a real thing. And I was there at one point, the second level, right? I heard people who are on medications have symptoms, and yet they are able to unravel them. They're able to see through them, to kind of navigate their way out, and don't get pulled in. Sometimes it's more of a struggle. Sometimes than other times, right? It's more of a struggle, but they get through it, and they don't get pulled under. So that's the second level. And I lived in that one for a little bit. Yeah, you can still live a life. You can still do all the stuff that you want to do. It's just you're gonna have symptoms here and there, and you can just kind of navigate through it. But the third level, and this is where a lot of people don't realize they can get to. The only time people tend to get to here is when they're taking medications for a while, and then when they stop, no symptoms return. Right. So that's a good way for when you're taking medication. That's the best outcome, is when you stop taking it and nothing comes back. You're good. You're golden. Right. That's the outcome you want. Unfortunately, sometimes when you stop taking medications, for a lot of people, symptoms come back. But the level here is to know, and it's knowledge, understanding, man. Like I'm telling you, there's something here, and I really wish therapists and stuff would delve into this, because if you have the knowledge, they have the awareness, and you have the knowledge and the understanding that you can navigate to the symptoms, then you can keep going until you get beyond the symptoms. You don't have to live with all that forever. And if you are aware of this, because the problem is, you have to set your intention on your destination, right? If you don't, you'll just wander around in the damn place, even if you can recognize what is an enemy and what is this, and you can avoid them, right? You can do all that, but you can understand, but you can do that and not know that there's an exit. There's an exit to this darkness. There's an exit to this forest of mist that you're wandering around in. And if you recognize that, then you can start going towards the exit, right? It's just it's like I said, the mind, what the mind creates, the mind can destroy. right? And what the mind creates, the mind can sustain. And this is where a lot of people who have that second level of insight, they just allow the mind to sustain its creation, but they learn to have a balance with it, right? You can stop there, but you can go beyond that. If you can reach that level to where you're not sucked in and pulled under by the illness, you can navigate all that with the by maintaining that level of insight. Why can't you go all the way? 100% you can go all the way, right? Because remember, it's not just a brain thing. It is it's an energy thing, if you want to call it that, right? It's a will that's pulling against your will, and this will is enforcing its will on you, and you've got to enforce your will, through your determination, to your faith, to your hope, to your, you know what I mean, to your persistence. And if you can do that and continue with a consistency and a determination and a persistent attitude, a hopeful attitude, you will break through the illusion of this mist, this fog that it has you trapped in, and you'll come through on the other side, right? This is what people are not aware of. That's the third level of insight, to completely break free of the illusion of the mist, and to come out above and beyond schizophrenia. So that's my. I'm gonna really end this video here. It's going on long enough, then longer than I hoped again. Um, but yeah, man, that's it. You know, it's not complex. It's listen, it's simple, but sometimes it's the simple things that people today have a problem dealing with. Everybody's so educated. Everyone want to give you all this science and this and all this that, but sometimes the what you need to do is put your ear to the ground. That's where truth is, right? Sometimes you need to humble yourself, right? Because the truth is low. It's not necessarily all the way up here. You gotta do all this big studying and all this stuff. It's not necessarily there sometimes. It's this. It's us having to bring ourselves down to simplicity, and while we're trying to make things more complex. And that's what gets us is the fact that we, it's become so complex that nobody's know what the heck schizophrenia is, and that there's all this and all this that, and everyone's trying to figure out what to do. But it's like it's actually simple, and it's about bringing our minds down to a simple level of thinking and moving forward that way. This is why so many people miss it, because it's just everyone's just so caught up in terminologies and anosognosia and whatever, all these, all these neurocognitive, all this stuff, and it's like that's not even it. It's not, you know what I mean? Like it shows stuff, but it's like this, you're missing the whole point. You're going freaking in that direction. The thing is the other direction, right? That's kind of why we miss so much of it. And it's just it's able to go back to basic principles that we learn as kids. Your parents always tell you, you can be whatever you want, you can do, you can believe, and you can this and you can that. And then suddenly we grow up and we no longer believe any of the stuff that we teach our kids that we were taught, and now we're just, everything just changes once we grow up and we start to think and we start to reason and we start to get more knowledge in this, and then the simplicity is gone, it's lost, and now everything becomes so complex, right? And doesn't help that the medical professionals aren't even aware themselves, because they go to school and they pack in all this knowledge, and they themselves can't get down to the simple stuff. They can't even see that anymore, right? A lot of times. So, but the third level, if you can get, I think that's where therapists, if they can focus more attention on that and really to build the foundation on, because listen, I forgot what proverb this is, but it says, a man, he that has no rule over his own spirit is as a city that is broken down and without walls, right? And I talked about that before. This is what your mind is when you are influenced or tormented by schizophrenia. This is what happens. Your mind is broken down. It's destroyed. The foundations have been broken up, and you are driven off the land. You're hiding. You're captured. Whatever it is, man. I like captured. You're captured, right? You're captured, and you're city's burnt down and broken down, and you're done, right? So what happens now is you and other people get lost because there's so much going on in your mind. There's pulls that way, there's fears, there's anxieties, there's hallucinations, there's delusions. Your mind is intrusive thoughts, right? You're how the heck do you rein all this in? It just seems such a hopeless situation. It seems so astronomically large and impossible, but you have the power to calm all that. You understand? And it's just if you can recognize that and just don't even focus on everything, just focus on one thing, right? Because what you got to do now is build back that foundation. This is what they need to work on, helping you build the foundation, right? Because you're going to build a structure. And this structure is going to sit on something and it needs to be something solid, right? I talked about a foundation in one of my other videos, right? But they need to help you set something solid, not just with medication, that's one form of it, but something else like for me, the foundation. Once you become aware, right, once you're aware you're ill and stuff, you need to start, okay, you recognize you're in captivity and you need to get out, right? So now you can start actually making some moves and you can do some things and you can escape. And now you're back in your land and now you got to freaking conquer every inch of this land. This is what all this stuff that's going on that seems to overwhelm is because your mind is your kingdom. It is your castle. It is your domain, and it's been invaded, and your walls, that's your barrier, your protection, been torn down, and your village been your land's been ransacked, your castle burned, everything's down, right? So you gotta go. Either you leave that up to the enemies, and you freaking live, you know, off and for the rest of your life, in dealing with this stuff, or you go back and you arm yourself and you go and you chop every single one of them down and take back what was yours. That's exactly what you have to do. It's a serious business. You know what I mean? Not physically. I'm not talking about physically now, in case anybody misunderstand me. It's mentally. You have to arm yourself. You have to prepare yourself because this is a battle, and it's a battle that if you don't fight it, it will fight you and it will crush you. You got no choice in the matter. It's either fight or, be fought, kill or be killed. So, you know what I mean? So what they need to do is set you right for this battle and build this foundation, right? Because you're going in there and you need to set up everything, right? You got to fight to get back in there. And you get back in there, you got to build this, you got to build yourself, your fortress and everything back up. So for me, the foundation was, like I said, I built mine on biblical principles, right? Which is, uh, that was one of them that I realized, and that when I just about Proverbs that I mentioned, that was something that really just caught me off. When I saw that, it shook me because I just saw like that's me, that was me, and it just like blew my mind because I understood it so much, right? And then resist the devil and he shall flee. And as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And whatsoever things that you ask for when you pray, believe that you have received it, and you shall have it. So it's not believe you're going to receive it. It's believe you ask for it, believe you have it. Right? So I have to live as if I have what I am seeking. Right? And that's kind of where it is. So for me, that's the foundation that I helped that worked it into for me, right? So when things came and voices, this and intrusive thoughts and what, I just let it go because that's how I resist. I let it go, right? And as I think I am in my heart, that's what I am. So I start to think I'm thankful for peace. I'm thankful for normalcy. I'm thankful for quiet. I'm thankful for being free of all this stuff. And I just walked in that direction. So that was my foundation. So whenever all these heavy stuff come at me, I fall back on that. So they couldn't push me back because I gave that biblical scriptures more power, and to me, they represent far greater truth than all the stuff that was coming at me, right? So by holding to this, they couldn't push me back, even though I was on no medication. I'm in the middle of the freaking storm, and they couldn't push me back because I was standing my ground. And then I was clothed in patience. I was clothed in determination, in courage. I had the shield of faith. I had the light of hope. They couldn't win, right? Because this is an invisible war. It's not a war you can fight with sticks and stones and swords and guns. It's not, you know what I mean? It's in a space that you can't really physically attack. So your weapons, everything you have, your tools, all the stuff, it's not gonna be physical. So you gotta know exactly what you have. And then you gotta arm yourself, you gotta clothe yourself, and you gotta go out there and you gotta use this stuff. Patience, courage, determination. These are freaking things we teach our kids every freaking day. And yet here we are on this land and we need these things. It's not just something you use to accomplish only your physical goals. These are things you use to accomplish these kind of goals as well, right? But we don't trust them because we're taught that everything is just into the brain, the brain, the brain, the brain, the brain. And so we cast everything else aside. The very things that are there to help us, we toss them aside. Because why? They're not good enough, right? And so what else are we going to use, right? There's nothing, you know what I mean? So this is what I think the therapists need to really help people do. Build that foundation. You know, whatever you want to build it on, you build it on that. That's just biblical stuff was I use for mine, because to me, I'm certain of that. Some of these other stuff, I don't know what they're gonna say or whatever it is, so I don't know if I could trust that. But for me, that's what I trust. So I was able to stand on that because, you know what I mean. Like it was, I I was able to be in all kinds of foolishness, and I would never wasn't pushed back because I kept reminding myself of that, and I was able to navigate like all kinds of nonsense, right? All kinds of nonsense, and I didn't sink. I didn't get pushed back, right? I moved all the way through it. So if they can do that and have and people to have confidence in the patience and the resiliency, all these good stuff, man. These stuff, we need to remember these stuff. We need to pull these things, dust those off, and revisit those, and to pursue those, and to not really watch about how long this is going to take, how long that's going to take. Just let the process go, and it'll build you up in more ways than you realize. So that's kind of, I'm gonna end this video right now because it's going on longer than I was going for like 15 minutes. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Schizophrenia and anosognosia. Anosognosia. I was have problems remembering that. Anosognosia. So our lack of insight, or schizophrenia, and the power of insight, man. Recognizing the illness, recognizing that you need for treatment, and recognizing that the hallucinations and delusions and so forth are due to the illness. And there's three levels of insight: recognizing the illness, being able to diffuse the illness, and then recognizing that we can go even beyond that and totally transcend it, overcome it, put it underneath our feet, and rise above and beyond. Until next time, peace.